The small alien ship moved slowly through the dark space near an ordinary star. Commander Gelcor sat in his chair, bored and tired. He had been checking empty star systems for 3 months now. It was not exciting work, but someone had to do it. The Galactic Council wanted maps of every system before they let anyone build colonies there. His sensor officer suddenly made a surprised sound. Her skin changed to a light blue color, which meant she was confused. "Commander, I found something strange. The third planet from the sun has oxygen in the air, water on the surface, and I am picking up radio signals." Gelcor looked at the screen with his 4 eyes. Another planet with primitive life that had not reached space yet. The Council would be happy, but it also meant no one could touch this system for 1,000 years. Most young species either figured out space travel or killed themselves first. Usually, they killed themselves. "Start watching them," he said, "but do not let them know we are here. Let us see how far they have come." The information that came in during the next hour made Gelcor feel worried. The planet was called Earth by the people who lived there. Cities covered the land, millions of buildings everywhere, radio and television signals filled the air. But what made him nervous was what he saw in orbit around the planet. "Officer, are you sure these numbers are right?" he asked. "I checked 3 times, Commander. The people here have gone to space. They have stations in orbit, hundreds of satellites, and they have even been to their moon." She stopped talking for a moment. Her skin flickered with nervous colors. "Commander, there is more. I am finding radiation on the planet's surface. Special types that only come from one thing." Gelcor felt his breath catch in his throat. "Nuclear weapons." "Yes, Commander, and the patterns show they used them. On each other. Many times." Nobody on the bridge said anything. The Galactic Council had 47 member species. It had existed for 15,000 years. Not one single species had ever used nuclear weapons in war. The weapons were too terrible. The damage lasted too long. Every species that made such weapons looked at them and decided never to use them in battle. Every species except these humans, it seemed. "Move back to a safe distance," Gelcor ordered. His voice shook a little. "Lock all this information with the highest security codes. We need to tell the Council right now. And mark this system as Level 10 quarantine." "Level 10, Commander? We only use that for dangerous enemy civilizations or plague worlds." "Exactly," Gelcor said. He stared at the blue and green planet on his screen. "Because I think we just found something much worse than either of those things." The more he looked at the data, the more afraid he became. These humans had only been using electricity for about 200 years. They had only been flying an aircraft for about 100 years. But in less than 100 years, they went from first flight to landing on their moon. They built weapons that could destroy their whole world. And they kept fighting each other even after they knew how dangerous their weapons were. His second officer came over and looked at the data. "Commander, look at this. They have thousands of these nuclear weapons, not just a few for emergencies, thousands of them, all pointed at each other. They live under the threat of total destruction every day," Gelcor said quietly, "and they just accept it as normal." The sensor officer pulled up more information. "I have been listening to their broadcasts, their entertainment, their news, their communications. Commander, these people have been fighting wars for their entire history. Large wars, small wars, wars over land, wars over resources, wars over ideas. They have never known real peace." Gelcor thought about his own people. The Velkrin had fought wars long ago, before they joined the Council. But that was thousands of years in the past. Once they reached space and saw how big the universe was, fighting each other seemed stupid and wasteful. Why fight over one planet when there were millions of planets out there? But humans seemed different. They fought because that was what they knew how to do. Fighting was part of their nature. "What else did you learn?" Gelcor asked. "They are competitive about everything. Their sports are based on combat. Their business is based on competition. Even their entertainment shows conflict and struggle. And Commander, they have something they call science fiction, stories about meeting aliens. What do these stories say? The sensor officer's skin turned dark red, the color of danger. Most of them are about fighting aliens. They imagine meeting us, and their first thought is how to defend themselves or how to win a war against us. Gelcor stood up and walked to the main screen. He looked at Earth, so pretty and blue from space. Hard to believe such a violent species lived on such a beautiful world. They are already preparing for us, he said. They do not know we exist yet, but they are already thinking about how to fight us. What should we do? His second officer asked. We follow orders. We stay hidden. We watch. And we let the council decide. Gelcor touched the communication panel. But I will tell you what I think. I think we should have never found this planet. I think we should have flown past this system and marked it as empty space. Because now that we know about them, we cannot pretend they do not exist. And soon, very soon, they are going to know about us. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was full of noise. Representatives from dozens of worlds talked to each other in worried voices. Ambassador Creole from the Velcrin stood at the center platform. Above her head, images of Earth floated in the air for everyone to see. The species calls themselves humans, she said. Her words were translated into many different languages so everyone could understand. They have existed for about 200,000 years. They have had cities and writing for about 12,000 years. Senator Volman from the Threscan Empire raised one of his 6 arms. This does not sound special. Why did you call an emergency meeting? Creole's skin turned dark red, which meant danger for her species. Because in just 100 years they went from basic flying machines to nuclear weapons and moon landings, and in that same time, they fought 2 wars that covered their whole planet and killed nearly 100 million of their own kind. Shocked sounds filled the hall. A representative from the peaceful Sorrenti spoke up. Her voice was shaking. Surely you mean 100,000? Such a number is too horrible to imagine. 100 million, Creole repeated firmly. And that does not count the smaller wars that have never really stopped. These humans have been fighting each other for their entire history. Elder Nimvas leaned forward in his seat. He was from the ancient Arconian species. His people had been traveling in space for 50,000 years. They kept the history of the galaxy and worked as peacekeepers for the Council. Every species has a violent past, Ambassador. We all fought among ourselves before we reached the stars. What makes these humans different? Creole showed the next set of images. This is what makes them different. The pictures showed battlefields covered in bodies, cities turned to rubble, and war machines that made even the toughest species look away. But the next image made several representatives cry out in fear. This is from their last global war, only 80 years ago. They fought everywhere, in deserts where the heat could kill them, in frozen lands where they would freeze to death in minutes, in jungles full of diseases that killed thousands of them. And they fought in the oceans. She stopped to let that sink in. They built machines to fight underwater. They created ships that could travel under the ocean for months, carrying enough explosives to destroy entire cities. The hall erupted in chaos. The idea was madness. Most space-traveling species came from worlds with very little water. The few water-living species in the Council had never made weapons because war made no sense to them. But these humans had turned every part of their world into a battlefield. Senator Volman's voice cut through the noise. What is their current level? Can they travel faster than light? No, Creole said, but the speed at which they learn and build suggests they will have that ability within 50 years. Maybe sooner. Then we have time to prepare defenses. another delegate suggested. We put military ships around their star system and keep them trapped until they mature or destroy themselves. Elder Nimvas shook his head slowly. You still do not understand. Show them the rest, Ambassador. Krial pulled up the final set of data. We listened to their radio and television, their movies, their books, their culture. Do you know what humans dream about? She let the question hang in the air before answering. They dream about us, about meeting other species in space. They have thousands of stories imagining what will happen when they meet aliens. And in almost every story, they prepare for war. They assume anyone they meet will want to hurt them. They plan how to fight us before they even know we exist. The hologram showed clips from human science fiction movies, their military training manuals, and even children's games where they pretended to defend Earth from space invaders. This is a species that has spent its entire existence fighting. Fighting nature, fighting each other, and now preparing mentally to fight whoever they meet in space. They have survived ice ages, diseases, asteroid impacts, and their own terrible weapons. They have never known a generation without war somewhere on their world. Elder Nimva stood up. His old voice carried the weight of thousands of years of wisdom. I have studied the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. I have seen warlike species and peaceful ones. I have seen aggressive species that wanted to conquer and timid species that wanted to hide. But I have never seen anything like this. He pointed at the image of Earth floating above them. This species does not just fight to survive. They fight because that is what they are. War is in their stories, their culture, their very souls, and now they are about to reach the stars. The hall became terribly quiet. The question we must answer, Nimbas continued, is not whether we should contact them. The question is whether we should let them know we exist, because once these humans learn that the galaxy is full of other species, that there are resources beyond their world, that there are others to compete with, nothing will stop them from coming. Ambassador Krial nodded. Every species in this hall reached space because we looked up and wanted to explore. The humans look up and see territory to take. They see challenges to beat. They see, as they say in their own words, a final frontier to conquer. She closed the presentation. We have discovered Earth, and now we must decide. Do we lock them in their system and hope they never escape? Do we contact them and risk letting them loose on the galaxy? Or do we do something the Council has never done and remove the threat before it can spread? The debate that followed lasted for days. Some species argued that destroying an entire civilization before they even left their home system was murder. Others argued that letting such a dangerous species loose was suicide for the rest of the galaxy. The peaceful Sorrenti representative stood and spoke with tears in her eyes. How can we call ourselves civilized if we destroy a species just because we are afraid of them? Yes, they are violent. Yes, they are dangerous. But they are also alive, thinking beings. They have art and music and love. They have children who laugh and dream. Do we really want to wipe all that out because of fear? Senator Volman responded harshly. And what happens when those children grow up and come to our worlds with their warships? What happens when they decide our resources should be theirs? Will your compassion protect your own children then? Elder Nimvas raised his hand for silence. We will not destroy them. That decision has already been made by the Ethics Council. We are better than that. But we must decide how to handle them. Complete quarantine, suggested one delegate. We surround their system with warning beacons. Any ship that tries to leave gets turned back or destroyed. They will see that as a prison, another argued. It will make them angry and more determined to break free. Diplomatic contact, offered a third voice. We approach them slowly, carefully. We teach them our ways. And if they respond with violence, Volman asked. If their first reaction to meeting us is to attack? Dr. Daniel Foster sat in the dark laboratory staring at his computer screen. His colleague, Dr. Amy Rodriguez, stood behind him holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold. They had been looking at the same data for 3 hours now, and it still made no sense, except that it did make sense. And that was the terrifying part. "Run it again," Daniel said quietly. Amy typed on her keyboard. The pattern appeared on the screen once more. A burst of radio signals from beyond the edge of the solar system. It lasted exactly 3 seconds, then stopped. But it was not random noise from space. It was structured, organized, artificial. "Someone sent a message," Amy said. They both already knew, but saying it out loud made it real. A compressed data packet. Someone transmitted information, and it passed right through our solar system. "But not to us," Daniel replied. He zoomed in on the trajectory. It was aimed at empty space, unless the receiver was there and moved. "Unless there was a ship there?" Amy finished his thought. She pulled up another screen. "I checked our archives. 3 months ago, the Hubble telescope replacement detected something strange in that exact spot. Something that reflected sunlight for about 6 hours, then vanished." Daniel leaned back in his chair. His hands were shaking slightly. A ship. There was a ship watching Earth, and someone sent them a message. Someone else knows we are here. "What do? We need to tell someone. The government, the United Nations, someone in charge." "And say what?" Daniel asked. "That we think aliens were spying on Earth and someone sent them an email?" "They will laugh at us. They will say we are crazy." But they both knew they could not keep quiet. The truth was too big, too important, too scary, and too wonderful to keep secret. Within 1 week, the information had leaked to the press. Within a month, every person on Earth knew. Humanity's reaction was immediate. Some people celebrated, some people panicked. Religious leaders struggled to explain what it meant. Scientists demanded more data, and military forces around the world went on high alert. Commander Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defender, one of the new orbital defense platforms that had been rushed into orbit. The station was barely finished. It had been built quickly using old satellite parts and space station modules that were meant for scientific research, but it had weapons now, and it was watching the darkness. "Anything on sensors?" Jack asked his crew. Lieutenant Kate Simmons shook her head. "Nothing, sir. If someone is out there, they are staying hidden." Jack stared out the window at the stars. He wondered what was watching them. Were they being judged? Had humanity just failed some kind of test by building weapons before building proper greeting stations? Did the aliens think humans were monsters? "Keep scanning," he ordered, "and keep the weapons ready. If someone is out there, I want them to know we are not helpless. We can defend ourselves." It was exactly that attitude that the Galactic Council had feared most. On the Velcrin monitoring station hidden in the outer solar system, Commander Gelcor watched the human response with a sinking feeling in his stomach. In just 1 month since they accidentally discovered the monitoring station, humans had launched 3 new weapon platforms into orbit. They had doubled their satellite network. They had begun building what looked like a military base on their moon. "They know we were here," his sensor officer reported. "They intercepted the Council's transmission." "Of course they did," Gelcor said tiredly. "These creatures put weapons on their communication satellites within days of launching them. Did we really think they would not be listening to space?" He opened a communication channel to the Council headquarters. "This is Monitoring Station Velcrin 7. The humans know about extraterrestrial presence. They are responding with aggressive defensive preparations. I strongly recommend immediate diplomatic contact before this situation gets worse." The response came back within hours. It was not what Gelcor expected or wanted to hear. "All Council vessels are ordered to maintain maximum distance from the Sol system. No contact is to be made under any circumstances. No transmissions are to be sent. The quarantine is now absolute and total. Gelcor stared at the message in disbelief. They are just going to leave humans trapped and afraid, sealed off with no explanation? His sensor officer's skin flickered with nervous colors. Commander, perhaps that is for the best. Look at what they are building. The scans showed frantic human activity. New telescopes were being constructed, bigger and more powerful than anything they had built before. Their space programs, which had been competitive and separate for decades, had unified almost overnight. Nations that had been enemies were now working together. And most concerning of all, they were having serious discussions about sending armed expeditions beyond their moon to look for whoever was watching them. They are not going to wait for us to make the first move, Gelcor realized. They are going to come looking for us. And in that moment, he understood the Council's decision. The quarantine was not really to keep humanity contained. It was to give the galaxy time to prepare for what was coming. Because one way or another, ready or not, humanity was about to join the galactic community, and they were bringing their weapons with them. Back on Earth, the mood was tense. Dr. Daniel Foster stood before a packed auditorium at the United Nations. Representatives from every nation sat listening. "We know they are out there," Daniel said. "We know they have been watching us. The question is why? Why watch us and not say hello? There are only a few possible answers, and none of them are good." He pulled up a slide showing the data. Either they are afraid of us, which means they think we are dangerous, or they are studying us like we study animals in a zoo, or they are waiting for something, waiting for us to reach a certain level of development, or waiting for us to destroy ourselves. "What do you recommend?" asked the Secretary General. "We prepare for every possibility," Daniel said. "We continue building our defenses because we have to assume they might be hostile. But we also need to prepare a message, a way to communicate that we come in peace. We need to show them the best of humanity, not just our weapons. And if they have already decided we are too dangerous to contact?" Someone asked from the audience. Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Then we prove them wrong. We show them that humanity is more than just violence. We show them that we can change, that we can grow, that we deserve a place among the stars." It was a nice speech, but in military bases around the world, generals were preparing for war. They looked at the data and saw an enemy that refused to show itself, an enemy that watched from the shadows, an enemy that might strike at any moment. Commander Gelcor watched all of this from his hidden station. He saw the weapons being built. He saw the fear and anger. He saw humanity preparing for a war that no one wanted but everyone expected. "They are doing exactly what we feared," his second officer said. "They are militarizing rapidly. In another year, they will have enough firepower in orbit to threaten a small fleet." 5 years after humanity discovered they were being watched, Dr. Amy Rodriguez stood in the control center of Lunar Base Armstrong. She watched the countdown clock tick toward 0. Next to her, Commander Ryan Mitchell checked the readings one final time. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. "All systems are green," Ryan said. "The Harris drive is stable. Power flow is good. Navigation computer confirms all calculations are correct." Amy nodded. Her mouth was dry. The Harris drive was named after Dr. Christine Harris, the physicist who had finally figured out faster-than-light travel. It had taken 5 years of desperate work. 5 years of humanity's best minds working together toward one goal, breaking free of their solar system. "You have launch authority, Commander," Amy said formally. Ryan took a deep breath and pressed the button. "Exploration Vessel Horizon, you are cleared for faster-than-light jump." On the moon's surface, inside the largest hangar ever built, the Horizon's engines came to life. The ship had been built by 12 nations working together. 20 of Earth's best astronauts and scientists were on board. The ship lifted smoothly into the dark lunar sky. Captain Eric Stone sat in the command chair. His hands gripped the armrests. Next to him, his first officer, Lieutenant Lisa Park, watched the drive systems carefully. "Faster than light drive charging," she reported. 30 seconds to jump. "All crew, prepare for jump," Eric announced over the ship's speakers. "We are about to make history." The countdown reached 0. The Horizon's engines flared with impossible light, and then the ship simply vanished from normal space. For 3 seconds, the crew felt something no human had ever experienced. They were everywhere and nowhere, stretched across light years and compressed into a single point. Then reality snapped back into place, and they were somewhere else entirely. "Position confirmed," Lisa said. Her voice was shaking. "We are in the Alpha Centauri system, 4.37 light-years from Earth. We actually did it." Cheers erupted on the bridge. People hugged each other. Some cried, but Captain Eric kept his eyes on the sensor screens. "Start scanning. Let us see if we are alone out here." They were not alone. The Velcrin monitoring post in the Alpha Centauri system detected the impossible event. One moment, their sensors showed an empty system. The next moment, a primitive but functional faster-than-light vessel had appeared. It was broadcasting radio signals in all directions. "They did it," the station commander whispered in shock. 5 years. They went from discovering we exist to breaking the light barrier in just 5 years. The message he sent to the Galactic Council was marked with the highest possible priority level. It read simply, "Humanity has achieved faster-than-light capability. The quarantine has failed. Request immediate instructions." The Council's response was immediate. Emergency protocols activated across the galaxy. Defense fleets moved to high-alert positions. And ambassadors from 47 species gathered for an emergency session. They had one question that needed answering. What do we do about the humans now? Elder Nimvas, now very old even by the standards of his long-lived species, stood before the assembly. "We can no longer avoid this situation. We must make contact. We must establish rules for interaction. And we must hope that these humans are capable of reason and peaceful cooperation." "And if they are not?" Senator Volman demanded. "If they respond to first contact with violence and hostility? Then we will know for certain what we have feared all along," Nimvas replied. "That humanity is not ready to join us as equals, that they will try to dominate and conquer us instead." But something unexpected was happening in the Alpha Centauri system. Captain Eric Stone had ordered all weapon systems powered down. The Horizon was broadcasting a message in every language that had ever existed on Earth. The message was simple. "We come in peace. We seek knowledge and friendship among the stars." It was perhaps naive, maybe even foolish given humanity's violent history, but it was also completely genuine and sincere. The Velcrin monitoring station crew debated for 3 hours. Finally, they made a decision. They sent a response in simple English. "We hear you. Welcome to the galaxy." First contact had been made between humans and aliens. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire across the internet and television. Humanity was not alone. There were others out there. They had been watching and waiting, maybe even afraid of what humans might do. Dr. Daniel Foster, now an old man but still working, stood before the United Nations General Assembly. He had a message that he hoped the world would hear and believe. "They have been watching us because they are afraid," he said. "Our entire history, all our wars and conflicts, all our weapons of destruction, it scared them. They did not know if we would be friends or enemies. Now we have a choice to make. We can prove their fears right by approaching the galaxy as conquerors. Or we can prove them wrong by showing them the best parts of what it means to be human." Many people wanted to believe him. They wanted humanity's first steps into the galaxy to be peaceful and friendly. But in military command centers around Earth, officers and generals were already making different plans. Because humanity had learned one hard lesson from its violent past. hope for the best, but always prepare for the worst. The galaxy was about to learn that same lesson, but from the other side of the equation. The Galactic Council prepared for formal first contact. A neutral meeting place was chosen on a small moon orbiting a gas giant. The location was halfway between Earth and the nearest Council territory. Ambassador Lisa Park, promoted from her position on the horizon, would lead the human delegation. When her shuttle landed and the door opened, Lisa stepped out onto alien ground for the first time. Before her stood beings from a dozen different worlds. Some had fur, some had scales, some had skin that changed colors. They were all so different from each other, yet they had all found a way to live together in peace. Elder Nimvas approached slowly. His translator device spoke in clear English. "Welcome, Ambassador Park. You and your species have caused quite a disturbance in our peaceful galaxy." Lisa smiled, even though she knew most aliens would not understand the expression. "So we have heard. We were told you have been watching us for several years." 5 years since our scout ship discovered your world," Ambassador Creal said, stepping forward. "And in that time, you have gone from primitive orbital capability to breaking the light-speed barrier. It is completely unprecedented in galactic history." "We are good at overcoming challenges," Lisa replied carefully. "Especially when we learn we are not alone in the universe and might be in danger." The meeting that followed lasted for 3 full days. The humans learned about the Galactic Council, its laws and territories, and the deep concerns about humanity's violent nature. The Council learned about human culture, history, and the complex truth that their violence came not from evil or malice, but from a desperate drive to survive against impossible odds. On the 3rd day, Senator Volman asked the question everyone had been avoiding. How can we trust that humanity will not bring war to the peaceful stars? Your entire history is written in the blood of your own people. The negotiations between humanity and the Galactic Council continued for many weeks. Finally, an agreement was reached. Humanity would be given provisional membership in the Council, but with strict limitations. Human ships could travel through Council space, but could not establish colonies without permission. Human military technology would be monitored and limited, and most importantly, humanity would have to prove over time that they could coexist peacefully with other species. It was not a perfect agreement, but it was a beginning. Back on Earth, not everyone was happy with the terms. Admiral Ryan Mitchell, promoted from his position as commander, stood before the military Joint Chiefs with concerns about the agreement. "They are afraid of us," he said. "They are going to watch everything we do. They will limit where we can go. They will treat us like children who cannot be trusted with dangerous toys." Admiral Greg Harrison, the senior officer present, asked a difficult question. "Are they wrong to be afraid? Look at what we have built in just 5 years. 7 faster-than-light warships. Orbital defense platforms around Earth and Mars. Plans for military outposts on a dozen moons. If I were them, I would be nervous too." Ryan sighed heavily. "So what do we do? Just accept their restrictions and hope they eventually trust us?" "No," Greg said firmly. "We prove them wrong. We show them that humanity can be trusted. Not by making ourselves weak and defenseless, but by showing restraint. By choosing peace when we could choose war. By being the species we want to be, not the species they fear we might become." It was a sentiment that leaders around Earth echoed. Humanity had been given a second chance to define itself on the galactic stage. The question was whether they would take that chance seriously. 10 years passed after first contact. The galaxy had changed in ways both subtle and profound. Humanity had kept its word about following the Council's restrictions. At the same time, they had built a reputation as tough but fair negotiators, brilliant engineers, and surprisingly loyal allies. When the peaceful Sorrenti collective faced a natural disaster that threatened to destroy their homeworld, human ships arrived first with aid and supplies. When the Threscan Empire encountered pirates attacking their trade routes in a remote system, it was a human patrol ship that responded to their distress call and drove the pirates away. Slowly and grudgingly, the galaxy's fear of humanity began to shift into something closer to respect. Ambassador Lisa Park, now serving as Earth's permanent representative to the Galactic Council, stood before the full assembly with a formal proposal. We request that the restrictions on human colonization and expansion be lifted. We have proven our peaceful intentions. We have demonstrated restraint and responsibility, and we have shown that humanity can be a positive force in the galaxy. Elder Nimbus, now incredibly ancient and near the end of his long life, smiled at her words. You have indeed proven yourselves, Ambassador Park, but not in the way we originally expected. What do you mean? Lisa asked with genuine curiosity. We thought humanity was dangerous because of your capacity for violence and destruction, Nimbus explained slowly. But we were looking at the situation incorrectly. Your species is actually dangerous because you absolutely refuse to accept limits or boundaries. You refuse to believe that anything is truly impossible. You take challenges that would break other species and somehow turn them into opportunities for growth. He gestured around at the assembled delegates from dozens of worlds. In just 10 years, you have taught us new principles of engineering and physics. You have shared medical advances that have saved millions of lives across many different worlds. You have inspired 3 other species to reach beyond what they thought was possible for them. You did not change the galaxy through violence or war. You changed it by being exactly what you have always been, a species that never ever gives up. The vote to lift the restrictions on humanity was unanimous. Every single species voted in favor. As Lisa left the Great Chamber, she received a personal message from Earth. Dr. Daniel Foster, now a very old man, had recorded a final statement before his death. Lisa watched the recording with tears in her eyes. Tell them we are grateful, Daniel said in the recording. His voice was weak but clear. Tell them we understand why they were afraid of us, and tell them that humanity will spend the rest of its existence proving that their faith in us was not misplaced. The stars are vast and infinite. There is room for all of us to thrive together. In the decades that followed, humanity spread across the stars, but not as conquerors or invaders. They came as explorers, traders, teachers, and allies. Human colonies were established on dozens of worlds, always with permission and always with respect for any native life. Human ships became known as the first to arrive when disaster struck anywhere in the galaxy. The Galactic Council archives, which recorded the complete history of every species that had ever reached the stars, added a new entry about humanity. It read, Humanity, first discovered in year 2847 of the Galactic Standard Calendar. Initially classified as an existential threat due to unprecedented levels of aggression and impossibly rapid technological advancement. Classification was later revised to valued member species after they demonstrated remarkable capacity for growth, self-restraint, and peaceful cooperation. Special note for future reference. Other species should learn from humanity's example. The most dangerous thing in the galaxy is not a species that is capable of violence and war. The truly dangerous thing is a species that is fully capable of war but deliberately chooses peace instead. 50 years after first contact, Ambassador Lisa Park retired from her position. She returned to Earth an old woman, celebrated as a hero who had guided humanity through its most critical period. At her retirement ceremony, she was asked what moment she was most proud of during her long career. The moment I am most proud of, Lisa said thoughtfully, was not any great negotiation or treaty. It was watching a human colony ship arrive at a new world, and seeing them plant gardens before they built weapons factories. It was seeing human children play with alien children from a dozen different species. It was watching humanity prove that we could be more than our violent past, that we could be better. And somewhere far out in space, on a small blue world called Earth, new generations of children looked up at the night sky. They saw not just stars, but possibilities. They dreamed not of conquest or domination, but of exploration and discovery. They imagined not weapons and war, but friendships and cooperation with beings from across the cosmos. The galaxy had once shuddered in dread when Earth was discovered. They had feared that humanity would bring nothing but violence and destruction to the peaceful stars. But they had been wrong. Humanity had brought something far more dangerous and far more powerful than weapons. They had brought hope. Hope that any species, no matter how violent its past, could change and grow. Hope that peace was not weakness, but strength. Hope that the galaxy could be a better place if everyone worked together. Commander Gelcour, now retired and living on a peaceful garden world, often thought about that day long ago when he had first discovered Earth. He had been so afraid of what humanity might become. But looking at the galaxy now, transformed by human energy and optimism and stubborn determination, he realized something important. The galaxy had not just survived humanity's arrival, it had been made better by it. The other species had learned from humanity that change was possible, that growth was achievable, and that even the darkest past could lead to a brighter future. Earth's discovery had indeed made every galaxy shudder in silent dread. But that dread had transformed into something unexpected and wonderful. It had become hope. Hope for a future where all species, no matter their origins or their past mistakes, could find their place among the infinite stars. And in the end, that hope was worth more than any weapon humanity had ever made, or any war they had ever fought. It was the greatest gift they could have given to the galaxy, the gift of believing that tomorrow could be better than today, and that together anything was possible. Lisa had prepared for this moment. She had thought carefully about what to say. You are absolutely right. We have fought terrible wars against each other. We have made weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. We have killed millions of our own species. Every single one of those acts has left deep scars on our civilization that we carry with us even today. She paused and looked around at all the different alien faces watching her. But here is what you need to understand about humans. We survived all of that. Not because we were the strongest or the smartest or the most violent. We survived because we eventually learned that working together was more powerful than fighting. We learned that building things was better than destroying them. We learned these lessons the hardest way possible, paying for them with rivers of blood and mountains of grief and regret. And now? Elder Nimvas asked gently, what have you learned about yourselves? That we are capable of both terrible destruction and incredible creation, Lisa answered honestly. Can you blame them? Gelcour asked. They know someone is watching them. They know someone has technology far beyond their own. They feel vulnerable and trapped. Of course they are building weapons. It is what any species would do. Not any species, the officer replied. Most species would try to communicate first. Most species would try to understand. Most species have not spent their entire existence fighting for survival, Gelcour said. Humans learned long ago that the one who strikes first often survives. They are not building weapons because they want to fight. They are building weapons because they are terrified. And a terrified human with weapons is the most dangerous thing I can imagine. He turned away from the monitors. The Council has made a terrible mistake. By refusing contact, they have confirmed humanity's worst fears. Now, instead of potential friends, we have created an enemy that will spend every waking moment preparing to fight us. And when humans finally break out of their system, and they will break out, they will not be coming in peace. They will be coming ready for war. The debate went in circles for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The decision was not unanimous, but it was clear. The humans would be quarantined but not destroyed. The council would watch and wait. If humans developed faster than light travel, then and only then would contact be made. Until that day, Earth would be alone, surrounded by silent watchers. As the delegates filed out of the hall, Elder Nimvas stood looking at the image of Earth still floating in the center. Ambassador Creole came to stand beside him. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked. "I think we made the only choice we could live with," Nimvas replied. "But whether it is the right one, only time will tell. These humans are either going to become our greatest friends or our worst nightmare. And we have just decided to wait and see which one they choose to be." "They are not ready for contact," the censor officer said. "No," Gelcour agreed. "But the real question is whether we are ready for them." He sent the encrypted message to the council with all the data they had collected. Then he ordered the ship to move far away from Earth, beyond where human sensors could detect them. As they traveled away, Gelcour kept watching the planet on his screen. Humans had survived ice ages that should have killed them. They had survived diseases that wiped out large parts of their population. They had survived wars that used weapons of incredible destruction. They had survived everything their world and their own nature had thrown at them. That kind of survival instinct, that kind of stubborn refusal to give up, was either going to make them great allies or terrible enemies. Gelcour suspected the council would spend a long time arguing about which one they were. As Earth disappeared from view, Gelcour made a personal note in his log. "Today we discovered a species that should not exist. By all logic, they should have destroyed themselves long ago. But they are still here, still fighting, still surviving. If they ever figure out how to travel faster than light, the galaxy will never be the same. I hope the council knows what to do, because I certainly do not." The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing back to council space with news that would shake the entire galaxy. Behind them, Earth continued spinning peacefully in space, unaware that it had just been discovered. Unaware that across the stars, powerful beings were now afraid of them, and completely unaware that their entire future had just changed forever.